Welcome to the 2012 Stanford Invite, presented by Next Gen Network. I'm Brian Jones of Sky Magazine, here with Mario O'Brien of Portland Rhino and Tyler Kinley of Seattle Sockeye. It's a beautiful day here as the sun is starting to set, and we have Pittsburgh versus Minnesota, possibly to decide the pool, depending on the outcome. Pittsburgh from the Ohio Valley. And then we have Minnesota coming out of the dominant north-central region. What do we know about these teams, guys?
Minnesota, I'm actually interested to see what we're going to see from Minnesota. These guys didn't qualify for nationals last year, but they have 15 returners and sort of a weird mix of players for their roster. A lot of sophomores, a few freshmen, and then, of course, Greg Aronson, one of their lead players. And, of course, the institution in Minneapolis, Charlie Resnikoff, as a coach.
I talked with Charlie before the game, and he said that right now, we've seen a lot of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with Minnesota. Sometimes they can just be on fire, and sometimes they can tank, and a lot of it's because they have a ton of youth, right? They ride emotion more than a lot of other teams just because they have so many sophomores and freshmen. They have no juniors. They have 9 sophomores and 4 freshmen on the team. And when they get hot, they get real hot, and they ride that. But if they get down, it could be the end. So let's see what happens real early on in the game.
Poll comes up from Pittsburgh. Offsides call on the first poll. Observers out there, we have Jason Conrad with Stephen Hubbard.
On the flip side of that, I spoke with the coach of Pitt. He has seen just they have serious defensive issues. The intensity isn't there, and it's to the point where he's going to start rewarding those guys who just give 100% effort above those who might have a more skill or might actually produce better, who just aren't playing that hard. He's changing up the PT because those guys it's complacency. They lost that game to Texas because Texas executed and Pitt did not apply the defensive pressure they needed.
I'm interested to see how Pitt responds. They won that tournament earlier this year. Maybe got a little too much swagger. Now they lost the game. Let's see how they respond.
Jesus.
Big collision right off of the start. Defender of Pittsburgh running into Handler going upfield.
Immediately, the first thing I see, that's a response to a coach saying, get on the pull, get pressure, get defensive pressure, right? That was him just sprinting down on the pull, slamming into number 10. He's walking off smiling. It's got to be just a Charlie horse to his thigh, but I think we're going to see a new, intense Pitt.
Play restarts, moved upfield, looking back, finding the center handler, moved to the right side. Minnesota, 2 handlers back in a vertical stack. Now looking for the front of the stack, looking upfield. Pick called on the play.
You know, it's going to be interesting to watch how Minnesota responds to this physical defense. That's one of the keys to the game for them. They have to be mentally tough. They're definitely not favored to win this game. They got to expect that mistakes just like that one are going to happen, but they need to respond well to that adversity.
Drop shot with the disc, looking to the left side of the field, looking underneath, finding Hausman. Hausman over to drop chow. Give and go. Hausman making the catch, swinging it. Right now, looking for somebody upfield, not available, just swinging it back and forth. Kaufman going up the line, now finding Earls. Pat Earls, one of the many freshman starters on Pittsburgh.
It's interesting. They're playing a red zone offense. They've got their entire stack in the middle of the end zone, but it's essentially a 3-person dominator, and it's gaining very little yardage.
Yeah, it's gaining little yardage because the dumps are standing in a position where there's actually no break throws available to the center handler. You know, you can run a good end zone offense only if you clear those handlers out of the way to have those easy throws. They force a throw, turnover.
Earls looking for Joe Bender down the field. Minnesota getting the disc back. Put into play vertical stack. Finds a man poached. Moves it up the field. Out midfield. Finding Aronson. Greg Aronson looking back, going back downfield. Big player for Minnesota. Putting it deep. Pittsburgh defender is nearby. Goes up for it. And Hausman ends up with a D. Hausman looking for Kaufman. Back to drop chow. Kaufman still available. Finds up the line, putting it deep. too low indeed by Minnesota.
That's just an execution error. The throw was there.
You know, I really love watching Pitt play. The way their offense works, they move the disc continuously before the stall count gets past 3 or 4, which is really fun to watch. It's also really fun to play. But sometimes when you get a little caught up, you're going to make a quick throw like that. It's going to come off wrong.
Play restarts. Looking upfield, nothing available.
We're going to see a lot of Greg Aronson getting open underneath here. He is a dominant downfield cutter.
Again, play restarts, looking back for the handler. Pittsburgh really getting in front of their man. Trying to not let anything upfield, really bringing the intensity. Dish at the sideline. Observer calls him in. Aronson putting it deep. Oh, Hausman argues with him. Meanwhile, we have Joe Bender down trying to make a play. Minnesota makes the catch. It ruled out now by the observer. Interesting. Normally don't see a reversal there. Observer maybe not aware of where the line was. Sun is coming in and out, shading part of the field. So it's going to be Pittsburgh's disc.
Still at 0-0 here. This is an epic first point.
Earls picking up the disc. Pat Earls, again, one of the freshmen, along with Joe Bender out in the field. And Trent Dillon looking as the isolation cutter. Earls looks to go back to Kaufman. Now the drop chow. Quick movement. The dominator still going on. Looking for Hausman. Big foot block.
That's a huge, huge play.
Danny Meeson.
Take a look at this foot block. Does his job. Sits on that IO. Gets his foot in the way. Nice block.
Meeson getting possession for Minnesota. Stoppage on the play as we get restarted.
Aronson calls foul on his first cut. Looks like he got a lot of contact on his initial cut.
Aronson looking to come back underneath.
Pitt's intensity looks awesome.
Putting it deep. Foreign Huck. Earls giving chase. Receivers there for Minnesota.
Oh my
Earls goes
gosh.
up early, and the receiver just does not make the catch. Earls picking it up to Kaufman.
Off the sideline, off the sideline.
Looking for the IO break. Dillon goes catch. Looking for Bender underneath. Now back to drop chow. Over to Hausman. Finding drop chow. Hausman going up the line. Quick handler movement by Pittsburgh. Looking underneath. Poached is Dillon. Shouting for the disc. Pittsburgh doing most of the damage with their handlers. And one isolated overthrow by Dillon. And again, that's the 6th turnover in this point, 3rd for each team.
I'm hoping Minnesota picks it up and calls a timeout.
Okay. Play restarts. Finding Aronson underneath. Puts it out to space.
gosh.
Bender giving chase. This time the receiver makes the catch. And we finally have a 1-0 game. Minnesota leads.
I got to say, if you're Minnesota, that is a fantastic point to have. It only frustrates Pitt more. What I saw in there was Pitt answering to their coach's call of more intensity, but applying it both on O and D. Their offense just looked frantic.
Absolutely.
It seemed like they needed to move the disc at -2 rather than just easy stuff, right? On D, yes, they're applying great pressure, but man, they're starting to overcommit, and their offense just looks panicked.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get a chance to go over them earlier, but guys, what is the Next Gen Tour Bus keys to victory for both squads here?
You know, I mentioned it for Minnesota. Again, they need to stay mentally tough. They're going to have mistakes against what is a more athletic Pittsburgh team, but they need to expect to overcome some adversity in this game. Also, they need to not be intimidated by the physical cutters that Pittsburgh has. They are very, very skilled players, and Minnesota just needs to do a good job with execution, put in the maximum amount of effort, and put it all on the table and let the chips fall where they may.
My take, it's a battle of maturity. Both teams have incredibly young group of starters. Who can have that mental stability throughout this entire game?
DiGirolamo getting the disc over to Kunsa, back to Saul. Saul, center of the field, distributor for Pittsburgh. Looking for the break, finding DiGirolamo. Looking for Max Thorne underneath, cannot find him. Back to Saul. Saul at midfield, putting out the space. Alex Thorne going up, can't make the catch. Putting it deep immediately for Minnesota. Saul is there. Minnesota receiver gets just outside the end zone. Looking, trying to dish for the score. Big layup, but Minnesota makes the catch. Pittsburgh, some question of doubt. No, it's going to count as a goal in Minnesota. First break of the game, up 2-0 on Pittsburgh.
Minnesota keeps playing this loose. This game is theirs to win.
Absolutely. You know, I don't think it was necessarily the greatest choice. You know, if you're in a close game or if you're an evenly matched team, but when you're outmatched, you know, go all in. Throw that deep shot. Pittsburgh's a little nervous. In that case, your man comes up with the play. You get your first break of the game, and now the momentum is yours to take half.
You know, before that overthrow, I would have said Pitt is finally looking calm. They got the ball, the disc into Isaac Saul's hands.
It's a flat ball.
He looked composed, right? He sat back. He surveyed the field. He took a good shot to Alex Thorne. It just popped a little bit. Uncharacteristic execution error on a good decision. They can't have those, right? Granted, you'd rather have execution errors than decision.
Again, we have a great day out here. It's been a little hot for some of these teams traveling from around the country. Great weather, a bit of a breeze at times, wind really not affecting play here in Palo Alto, California.
Yeah, this is totally perfect. If you're from Minnesota coming down to Palo Alto, California, this is exactly what you want. Get a little break from the weather. I'm from the Midwest myself, and this helps a lot mentally to just be able to relax a little bit.
Finding Thorne upfield. Thorne boosting it to DiGirolamo, giving chase. DiGirolamo reels it in, and Pittsburgh gets on the board.
That's a beautiful throw.
Beautiful throw.
Great chemistry between those two receivers. They were actually even when the throw went up, but the handler knew that his receiver was more athletic. He just needed to put it out in front of him, and he's going to run that one down.
Yeah, it's also, there's a measure of confidence that's instilled when your captains, your playmakers go out and just do their job. That's a key point for Pitt to just say, okay, we got this game, right? We know we have that in our bag. Tyler goes deep, we hit him. That's all day.
Pittsburgh making it look real easy on offense. Tyler, who can we expect to see to be the key player on Minnesota today?
I got a lot of intel from their coach, Charlie Resnikoff, on a bunch of young players. But if we are going to talk about the guy they need to perform, it's Greg Aronson. He's number 9. He is their main downfield cutter, and Charlie couldn't talk enough about his hands. When you see him catch, they're incredibly fast. His release points are fast. Both his backhand and forehand is very quick. For any players out there watching, he's got great hands, and it makes a big difference. Otherwise, he named a lot of young guys. Number 11, Steven Mance, just intense deep player. Number 1, Ryan Osger is a freshman with gigantic ups. We'll see.
Play restarts. Minnesota working it upfield. Aronson, the player to watch, operating deep against Hausman. Big matchup, Aronson gaining the under. Putting it deep.
Oh, wow.
Jump ball. Joe Bender is there. Oh. Minnesota makes the grab and now leads 3-1.
That was Reese Hornis. Charlie told me before the game he is just a fast, deep, hot-tempered little deep cutter that they love going deep because he's got those ups, he makes those plays, and he pumps up the rest of their young, exuberant team.
Take a look at the here. Aronson throws, like we said, a jump ball. Just a great play by the offensive player. Boxes out, gets it at its highest point. 3-1, Minnesota.
If you're a team that rides emotion, that is the key. That is the play you want.
Mario, as the Pittsburgh offense comes back in the field, who can we expect to see being the big playmakers for Pittsburgh?
Say again? For Pitt? Oh, Pitt's got playmakers out of the building. Here, Max Thorne and Alex Thorne, brothers. Max is the younger. I was told by Charlie before the game that Minnesota really wants to key on Alex because other teams may key in on Tyler DiGirolamo. He's their big, fast, deep cutter. But they actually worry more about Alex Thorne. They think he gets overlooked. They think he actually is the key cog in their wheel. That's like, he can go deep, he's fast, and he opens up with his throws. They're going to really look to shut down Alex Thorne. Goes without saying, Tyler DiGirolamo. Oh, wow. Another turn. Now that's Max Thorne with the gloves.
Right off the bat, Max Thorne, younger brother of Alex Thorne, cannot reel in the catch. And Minnesota, an opportunity to break here to extend the lead. I'll break the space too far. Going to be a turnover, and Pittsburgh gets it right back.
These are execution errors. They are not decision errors. That's a catch you got to make. He makes that catch. I'm sure he looks at that and just says, what happened?
He in the back of his brain, he's thinking that loss is there. The fire-up speech by his coach is there, and he's just not focused. He doesn't make the catch.
Swing to start off play. Saul looking underneath the Thorne, decides to go with a break over to the other Thorne, Max. Looking back for Saul. Finding Kunsa, the line for Saul. Putting deep, Brenner is there. Defender giving chase, but Brenner doesn't reel in the catch. Simple catch in the back of the end zone, hits him in the chest. Bounces off, Minnesota disc.
2 drops at 1 point, just drops. These are just drops. Pitt sidelines accumulating with their women's team. They would be exuberant, they'd be psyched, but right now they're quiet.
Minnesota bringing the disc up to the line. Hunting man underneath, Alex Thorne almost getting the poach D. Pushed back now. Finding man underneath. Looking for the deep shot. Another 50-50 disc, trailing to the left. Coots is there. Minnesota receiver cannot make the catch. Josh Coots.
This is the 4 o'clock round. I think we're starting to see fatigue play a little bit of a role in some of these errors.
Yeah, when you get tired late in the day, your body's telling you, I don't want to play anymore at this point. I want to get this point over with. So you start to make those decisions to get the point over with, just like that hook.
Bobovich up to Thorne. Thorne putting it deep for his brother, trailing to the left. Over his head. Max Thorne goes up, and another drop for Pittsburgh.
That throw, having played the Buzz Bullets, that was a very Buzz Bullets throw, right? It's to the far away corner. It's a loopy throw. The defense never enters a position where they could even touch it. But man, you just expect them to catch that again.
Play restarts. Minnesota with another chance after following a Pittsburgh drop. Finding the underneath color at midfield, putting it deep, another 50-50 disc. Brenner has position, but it's trailing, and the receiver is getting underneath it and makes the grab for the 4-1 Minnesota lead.
Why not? Why not at this point? Every single throw that they have just bombed, they have outread the Pitt defender, gotten to the right spot, and the only thing that's preventing them from catching it is their own hands if they drop it. Minnesota is lights out on hucks.
Let's take a look at this huck. You're going to see that for most of this disc being in the air, the Pitt defender has advantage. Look, he's got the advantage, and he just lets the Minnesota player gain the advantage back for another break, and Kaz Merrick is not happy. We're going to go to commercial. We'll be back with you. 4-1 Minnesota, smelling the upset.
The sport we know, the sport we love, is changing. Pro leagues, world championships, an ultimate team on every campus. The Sporting Goods Manufacturers Association says Ultimate is the fastest growing team sport in the country. Let's not just settle for bigger, though. Let's make it better.
And we're back here coming out of timeout, Pittsburgh versus Minnesota. Minnesota having a 4-1 lead, shockingly over Pittsburgh. All the hucks falling in all the right places for Minnesota.
Pittsburgh's not doing themselves any favors here. What do we have? 3 drops on the last point, 2 of them in the end zone. I mean, I don't want to speak too early here, but the wheels look like they're falling off for Pitt.
14 total turns, 8 for Pitt, 6 for Minnesota. Minnesota's turns, not terrible. Pitt's, worrisome. But now, you know, as a guy who's coached a little bit, if you're going to choose between execution errors and decision errors, you always want execution errors. Those are the easiest to clean up. You just say, calm down. We're making the right decisions. Now we just got to do the things we know how to do. Just take it easy. The plays will come. Decision errors, those are worrisome. And so far, Pitt has not made decision errors. They're just dropping stuff.
Case of the drops for Pittsburgh as the pole goes up. Kunsa taking it, centering it to Saul. Over to Thorne. Looking for DiGirolamo. After faking deep, coming back in underneath. Looking back for Saul. Vertical stack. Pittsburgh loves to look for the break first. Finding Kunsa.
I'm loving the patience I see right now from Pittsburgh. These are easy, uncontested passes that they're completing.
Patience all the way up the field. Turning into a string of throws. Quick movement by Pittsburgh, which we've seen all year long. Saul with it just outside the zone, puts it to space. Max Thorne makes that catch. Observer rules him in. And Pittsburgh getting back on the board, stopping that bleeding.
One thing you hear on that point is Minnesota coach Charlie Resnikoff yelling "Gray Duck." Now, it's my guess here when the disc was in a thrower's hands, he's yelling "Gray Duck." That means straight up mark. That's letting the downfielders know, hey, it's a thrower. Be aware that that deep shot might come. And if they don't hear that, I'm guessing front. What's the weather like here, Brian?
Right now, it's a little bit of a breeze at times, but pretty still. And we've seen blade hucks just go up and float through the air. Players have been able to get underneath them all day long.
You know, I certainly understand if you're watching at home, the throwers are certainly, at least, it might look windy from some of the throws that are going up and just hanging there, but really they're just, I mean, some of these throws from Minnesota just aren't great throws. They're just kind of getting lucky in the end zone with them.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking a couple miles an hour tops. It's like a thrower's win, really.
Absolutely.
We have the Pittsburgh defense back on the field, trying to make a big difference. And they've seen 50-50 discs. They now know what Minnesota's trying to do. That's half the battle.
This is the first Pitt D point in a while. Let's see their intensity here.
Starts out Aronson with a disc, looking deep. Fakes around, now looking back. Looking for an option. Hausman playing way off the mark there. Trying to force him to not throw it deep. Very cognizant of the situation. Play restarts. Aronson looking back for his handler. Puts on the right side. Vertical stack. Pittsburgh now giving up the unders. Putting it to space. Big break to Aronson for the goal. 5-2.
Running
Pittsburgh
that vert
leads.
stack. Running that vert stack. They are hitting the insides easily and consistently. They're just working it up that weak side.
Yep, that was 2 consecutive IO flicks right up that inside break lane. And that, I mean, it's tough to defend. It's tough to defend as a downfield defender if your mark's not more straight up. You know, if the disc is on that side and you're still playing like your normal force mark, that's an easy throw.
It's true.
You've got to go a little bit more straight up with that mark when the disc is on that side of the field.
Force them to use their backhand around. It's a slower throw. It's a tougher throw.
Right now, Minnesota has this huge lead, and even now, the Pittsburgh was trying to shut down the deeps. Minnesota able to work it up the field. What do you do if you're Pittsburgh?
You know, if you're Pittsburgh, if I'm the coach of Pittsburgh, I'm saying, you know what, guys, we're fine. Take it easy. Play your game. This is a more than surmountable hole.
Yeah, I'm pointing out the opportunities that they've had to score. Look at these easy goals that we've had. We've just dropped them. Look at the opportunities that we've had for D's, and we just haven't gotten them. We've sort of gotten a bit unlucky. You know, if they keep playing the same way, they're still going to get those opportunities. They just need to wait for the momentum to shift a little bit.
Alex Thorne with a disc on the sideline. Getting back to Saul. Continuation with a swing. Call on the play.
I'm loving the dump swing. Excellent execution on that. It's going to go back. But the Pitt resets were in a great position. He caught the disc immediately, looked to the far side. Tons of space over there.
Play restarts. Saul looking upfield. Mark is playing very much off of Saul, finding Brenner. Backhand over to Kunsa. Kunsa back to Saul. Dump swing action continuously, looking for the man upfield. Max Thorne gets it in front of his older brother, Alex. Now over to Kunsa, finding Saul. Sideline. Saul with a hammer, floating in the air. Thorne is there, makes the easy grab. Pittsburgh's offense restoring a little bit of confidence there.
Yeah, playing with a little bit of swagger, and it worked out for him. You know, look, a lot of easy throws. They showed their skill with the goal, and hopefully that should get a little something going for them here.
It's interesting to watch how Pitt responds to their own lack of success, right? When I think back to a team like Wisconsin, they respond to a subpar performance with fire, right? They had guys screaming at each other in the huddle. And I mean, if that doesn't get your blood boiling, your heart pumping, I don't know what will. Some other teams, right? I think to a team like, let's say, my mind goes to Stanford. I could be wrong, but it's a much more cerebral team where it's slight adjustments, it's picking up your pace, it's focusing. I'm curious to see what vibe works right for Pitt to respond positively. Is it fire? Is it aggression? Is it yelling? Or is it calm? Or is it something else? Is it joking? Is it like just swagger? Is it just throwing it out there dancing or something?
I can tell just watching Pitt walk around that they're not used to playing calm, composed ultimate, which is maybe what it takes to execute on offense. I agree with you, Tyler. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond to the situation.
Alex Thorne playing a D point, trying to get one back when the turnover happens, if it happens. Pull goes up, Minnesota catching it on the fly. Center to Eddie. Over to Aronson, putting it deep. Another 50-50 shot. Alex Thorne there running it down.
We got a whole pile coming.
Mick Van Ness also there. Minnesota makes the catch. Another conversion on a 50-50.
That's the second play from Super Saiyan over here, number 25, Reese Hornis. He is getting Minnesota pumped. Look at that hair.
It's incredible.
Psyched. Yeah, he got up.
That's a 6-3 lead for Minnesota, and we're all here sitting there just holding our arms out, going, "Can they keep this up?"
It's working.
The question is not why; it's why not at this point. Put that ball in the air and let your playmakers go catch that ball. Excuse me, disc. I'm sorry. I'm trying. You know, in a lot of games, that shot from Greg Aronson is not one you want. You say, bad decision, whatever. But right now, Minnesota is shooting 3 for 6 for Hucks, 50%. And for a team that rides momentum like this, to take that chance and you get this gigantic surge of momentum. And if you miss it, well, you know what? Hey, bad decision, we'll get it back, right? It might be the perfect concept to roll those dice because the upside's huge.
Hoff with the pole. Pittsburgh offense back on the field. Still hoping to settle things down. Brenner with the disc. Centers to Saul. L-Stack looking for Max Thorne underneath. Freshman. And Pittsburgh's YCC impulse. Back to Saul. To be in front of his defender. Doesn't hesitate with the hammer to DiGirolamo. Finding Alex Thorne underneath. Thorne looking deep. Faking the forehand. Puts it around to Saul. Finding Kunsa downfield. Pivoting around. Looking for anybody available. Bit of confusion. Saul trying to get open. Putting up the hammer to space. DiGirolamo is there. Makes the grab. And right now, both teams trading points.
Pitt's offense is questionable. I got to hand it to one player on Minnesota's defense there, Ben Swanson, number 7. He was guarding Alex Thorne. And at one point, Alex Thorne was just wide open field. He had, I believe, his brother Max Thorne had the disc. And Ben shut him down. He covered the first, 4 or 5 seconds that mattered and forced Max to take a look at the dump. And that's massive. If you can shut down players like Alex Thorne in the lane, you are doing your job right.
And that's something that Pitt hasn't really seen so far you know, this season is teams that can shut down those cuts. They're used to just, like I said, moving the ball quickly. Immediately, once you shut down one cut, they turn to the dump. Confusion ensues.
We're looking at a interesting situation coming out of the pool. Pittsburgh here losing to Texas in the last round after beating Stanford earlier in the day.
Exactly.
Stanford beating Texas and Stanford beating Minnesota. Or no, Stanford actually playing Texas right now, excuse me. So depending on the outcome, we could see a whole slew of teams and combinations.
Crazy. This pool is just crazy.
Yeah. As the A pool, normally that's the one that'll go to seed.
Yep.
Maybe the last 2 seeds you might get a weird one in there, but usually the 1 seed holds seed almost always in the A pool.
Aronson looking back, finding Eddie. Call on the play. David Eddy, captain, number 31 of Minnesota.
You know, one thing I'm seeing Minnesota do that it looks like Pitt's not really prepared for is they cut deep and then they continue to go deep. And even as they get deep, they're still throwing that ball, disc. And Pitt, I think, is more used to, well, you get to a certain point deep, and of course you're going to come under. And so they start to say, okay, well, I'm guessing they're going to come under. They give up a little bit of that lane. Minnesota's just not doing it, especially number 25, Reese Hornis, who's caught those too. He just continues to just burn and burn deep.
Still some discussion with the observer of what exactly is happening on the field. Minnesota known as the Gray Duck for the unusual game of Duck, Duck, Gray Duck instead of Duck, Duck, Goose. Play restarts. Eddie with the disc. Final receiver downfield. It looks like Dropcho got a piece of that one for the hand block. He gets to pick it up, and Pittsburgh might get one of their breaks back here.
You know, I don't know if he even meant to let that one go. It just kind of slipped out of his hand.
I agree.
Dropcho putting up field to DiGirolamo. Surveying the field. High release up to Dropcho. Not much movement here. Up to Kaufman. Finding Hausman. Kaufman going up the line immediately. Makes the grab just outside the end zone. Looking for anybody. Finds DiGirolamo for the goal. And Pittsburgh might have just gained the momentum they need to get back in this game.
Yeah, that's a big one for Pitt to get a break before the half after things haven't really gone your way. I wouldn't be surprised to see him possibly generate another turnover here. I think Reznikov is definitely doing the right thing by calling a timeout, saying, hey, we got a lead right now. Let's just get to half, reassess. The momentum is ours right now. Let's hold on to it.
Every game has swings of momentum back and forth. To be honest, right now, my gut is worried for Minnesota. Pitt is responding well. They're starting to get back into their own rhythm a little bit. Minnesota hasn't had a play in a little bit. I'm going to be honest. I'm worried about this Pitt O point, or this Minnesota O point. I think Pitt is going to come with the vengeance on this D-line. They're going to load it with their studs. And Minnesota, if Minnesota puts this in, they have a serious chance to win this game. If Minnesota can't put this one in, Pittsburgh's going to really start feeling confident again.
Yeah, if I'm Minnesota here, I'm making sure that Aronson is involved with this play. He's a leader on this team. He's experienced. He played for the Next Gen Tour last year. Get that guy involved. Let him lead you to a goal, get you to half. Inspire the team a little bit. Reznikov come in, make the right adjustments, and then they'll have that opportunity to win this game.
Keeping the offensive starters on the field, we have a stacked Pittsburgh line. Alex Thorne, Trent Dillon, Julian Hausman, Marcus Dropcho, Zach Kaufman, Tyler DiGirolamo. Enough firepower to get the D and possibly the score.
Trent Dillon has looked especially explosive in the warm-ups and on defense this game. I'm going to say if he has a play to make this point, he's going to make it.
Trent Dillon, just one of those 5 amazing freshman starters for Pittsburgh, going out there playing like a veteran in some ways. Thorne with the backhand pull. High lofty. Pittsburgh's defense should be able to use this. Can't stop the first throw, but still Minnesota backed up in their own end zone. Quickly finds Arenson. Putting it deep. Eddie going.
It's a great throw.
Bender there. No, Minnesota completes another huck, and that's halftime.
And that's Reese Hornis. Again, 3 goals, 3 big momentum shifts just from his catches in the first half.
You know, and I love what Aronson did coming out. He had maybe a deep look when he caught it, but he chose to take the easy IO underneath, which gave the next cutter even more space to work downfield. Easy throw to space for a really fast, incredible receiver. Great decision-making, great play call. Awesome job from Reznikov to call that play and get them to half.
It's true.
Right now, Minnesota leads 7-5 as we go into halftime. We'll be back in a bit with the second half. Coming out of the second half here at Minnesota versus Pittsburgh. Minnesota getting set to pull. Blade pull coming out of the second half here at Minnesota versus Pittsburgh. Minnesota getting set to pull. Blade pull coming down. Going to be picked up by Michael Brenner. Coming out in L-stack isolation with Alex Thorne and a zone. Immediately Scuba over the top. Turnover, Minnesota. Zone paying off dividends right away.
A little too relaxed on that throw over the top of the cup.
Eddie picking up the disc.
I'm going to put that one on the receiver. Should have made the play.
Back to his handler, back to Eddie. Not much cutter movement right now. Eddie looking for the break.
Oh my goodness.
Receiver makes a great catch, falling to the ground. Finds his man just outside the end zone. And just like that, Minnesota.
That is a game changer. He slipped, he fell down, he kept focus. It was a one-handed stab at the disc. Catches it, maintains possession, they move the ball to the end zone. That was fantastic.
If you're Pitt, you're thinking,
really?
Come on. If I'm going to lose like this,
Give me something.
I'm going to lose to a dude sliding on the ground, catching, and throwing to an open receiver.
And the answer from Minnesota is yes.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Love it.
If you're Minnesota right now, you're kind of just doing the Michael Jordan shoulder shrug after you hit 6 threes in the first half.
It's working.
Keep doing it.
I don't know how. Ask me later.
Pittsburgh offense coming back in the field, and they had offense has been flowing smoothly. Defense, however, maybe had to make some adjustments. You guys have been heavily involved in club teams. What would your approach be to talk to your team from going into halftime?
You know, as we noted, coming into this game, the Pitt coach, really laid into them, saying you are being complacent. We need more. We need you to amp up the D, and really attacked them and said you have to step up. That wasn't working. I would change the nature of that approach and say, hey, you're playing for your teammates. Make the play to pump your team up. Give your teammates something to cheer about yourself, right? Take it upon yourself and love the work, right? Really own that work. I'm not sure if the negative approach is working on this young, freshman-laden team.
Flat mark by Minnesota attempting to push Pittsburgh into their own L-stack. Center to Saul. Finding Kunsa. So looking upfield. Kunsa and Saul just throwing it between each other right now. Finding Brenner. Nothing available upfield. Minnesota defense impressive right now, shutting down. The cuts coming in. Being forced to put it deep. Alex Thorne giving chase. Going to the right. Thorne making the grab. And Pittsburgh gets back on the board. 8-6. Minnesota leads.
Tough shot.
Tough shot. And give credit to the Minnesota defense. Reznikov had him forcing straight up, not allowing any cuts underneath. Must have had him forcing out downfield. And, Pittsburgh went ahead, took the shot, came down with the disc. But I think that's what you were looking for out of your defense if you're Minnesota.
I don't see Minnesota running away with this game at all yet. There has been no sign that Minnesota is going to just light them up. I mean, they've been rolling the dice. They've been getting lucky, right? But at some point, they're going to roll a 7, and they're going to have to face some adversity. This is Minnesota. I imagine at some point something's going to go wrong, and it's going to be up to them to either continue on this hot streak, find it again, or we'll see. It could come down to a real close game at the end.
Last game of the day. It's been hot all day. Team suffering from a little bit of fatigue, but Pittsburgh starting to put off some of their offensive starters on D. DiGirolamo out in the field. Pull goes up. Cut in the end zone, centered to Eddie. Aronson with the disc. Looking for any option upfield. Now forced to go back to his handler. Call on the play. Not much movement by Minnesota for this initial possession.
Yeah, they've been very deliberate with their cuts. You know, they said, okay, center the disc. Aronson make the first cut. Look for the next cutter, and I think that's okay. It's been working for them. But I agree with you. They need to get a little bit more dynamic.
Looking upfield now, back to Eddie. Looking for Aronson, can't find him. Travel called on the play.
That's a little small one there. Come on.
Pittsburgh.
Aronson's been very involved here on this open. I look for him to continue to do so as this point develops.
Play restarts. Pittsburgh defense not allowing much movement. High release off the start. Still can't get much of going. Eddie with the disc. Travel called. This possession coming to a standstill. I don't think Minnesota has gained almost any yards on this possession other than getting it out of the end zone.
You know, this is a fairly typical tactic. When you get down by a couple, you need to regain momentum. You might start making a couple more calls that you wouldn't normally make. I mean, these calls weren't happening earlier in the game, and now, you know, Pitt's definitely making some sort of adjustment to try to gain an advantage.
Back to Eddie. Eddie surveying the field. DiGirolamo on Aronson. Hausman trying to get over to Eddie. Still pushing Minnesota back.
Aronson's getting open at will.
Aronson with the disc. Still not much movement by Minnesota. Now choosing the jacket. Big huck. Bender is
out
there.
of bounds.
Going out of bounds.
Way out.
Aronson, what an arm. But nonetheless, turnover. Pittsburgh gets it back with a chance to break.
Aronson's talking.
And the result will stay a turnover.
I was about to comment on Minnesota's patience there. I liked it. They're really putting the disc onto the weak side, looking to attack that break side. But then it looked like their dumps got a little complacent, and they had to resort to that bomb. That's too bad. I like their patience.
Yeah, the patience was a result of Pittsburgh playing excellent defense. It just ended up that the stall count got high. No one was open. Aronson had to punt.
DiGirolamo looking back for Kunsa. Nothing available.
Good D.
Forced to punt it. Putting it on line for Dillon. Minnesota gets the D. Giving them possession 15 yards outside their own end zone.
Back-to-back, both teams not able to execute their sideline offense. You've got to be able to get that disc off the sideline to continue your offense.
No dump scheme for Minnesota starts out. Running man underneath. Putting it deep. Hornets going after it. Makes the grab. Called in by the observer. Amazing grab by Minnesota Hornets.
Super Saiyan. I'm telling you, he's blown up this game.
Blowing up. And you know what? He's blown up, but Aronson made an awesome throw. Defender had no chance. That was like a high stall count throw. He just put it to a spot where only his offensive player could get to it. The receiver made an awesome play, dragging his feet, keeping that one in bounds.
Aronson you got to lay off the weights a little bit. He is putting that thing at the back of the end zone. Last one, the one before that, he put on the sidewalk. He's got to rein it in just a tad to give his guys like let Reese make it a little bit of an easier catch.
Minnesota coming down with all of the catches.
9-6. Sidelines of Pitt looking a bit shell-shocked.
Offensive line out in the field. Andre Bobovich, Tyler DiGirolamo, Isaac Saul, Kunsa, Thorne, Older Thorne, Michael Brenner catching the ball. Drops the pole.
My goodness.
And when it rains, it pours.
Dropped pole. Nothing is going Pitt's way.
Minnesota having another chance for a break. This would be unbelievable at this point, this string of events. Eddie with a disc, looking for an isolation cut. Trying to stop his man.
Is it in or is it not
in?
Not
There
in.
was really not in. Play continues. Still looking. Nobody
Everyone's
at the end
just
zone.
crowding the
Horseback.
area. They just want to punch this thing in. This is not pretty, Enzo.
Here
No.
they can. Throwaway. Brenner gets redemption. And Pittsburgh dodges a bullet.
Jeez.
Saul with the disc. Putting it deep. DiGirolamo there, giving chase. Hanging in the air. Goes up, makes the grab just outside the end zone. Looking for Abalovic. Instead finds Brenner, and Brenner goes from GOAT to hero.
Yeah. That was very reminiscent of a play he made against a Central Florida defender. Goes up just massive. Tyler's got huge ups.
Pittsburgh dodging a bullet. This is a bomb to the Pittsburgh receiver. Excellent job playing position, getting the disc at the highest point, and then stays patient, throws a goal.
Things now kind of coalescing for Pittsburgh on the sideline. Dodging a bullet there and then redeeming themselves. It's kind of like, hey, we can relax now a little bit, going with the flow. Do you sense any change of momentum from Pittsburgh here from that play? Or?
That's what they needed. That is exactly what they needed. Tyler DiGirolamo making the veteran play they need, instilling a level of confidence, giving them some momentum, giving them some energy. Immediately we see a change in their sidelines. That's a game changer right there.
Yep. That would have been 10-6 Minnesota. 7-9 is a very different game in the second half if you're Pittsburgh.
Alex Soren again playing defense for Pittsburgh. DiGirolamo out there as well. Big pull by Alex Thorne. Defense should be able to take advantage.
You know, if I'm Pittsburgh right now, I got to force Aronson out. They're just giving him underneath, and he is running the offense.
Looking for the deep. Once again, Thorne is there. Can he make the grab? Oh, big grab by Minnesota receiver, maintaining possession on the sideline.
Again, Reese Horness.
Aronson with the disc. Puts up the hammer to space. Nobody there. And everything seems to be going Minnesota's way still. 10-7 they lead.
Wow. It is the Reese Horness show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to it. Stay a while. Try the veal.
We didn't know much about Minnesota before. Now we know who to look for other than Aronson.
Don't test the hornet's nest, huh?
Hey-oh, ding dong.
Minnesota looks not crisp, but good, right?
Good enough.
Exactly. Not willing to play ugly. Just put that ball in the air. Come down with it.
They made the grab, and it's just after a certain amount of time, I just did not expect to see the grabs that we're seeing.
This is the game we've been waiting for as announcers and maybe as fans, right? This is a huckfest at this point, slugfest, toe-to-toe.
This game's not over yet. Pittsburgh, though, has to come out and score here. Offensive line back out.
What you did notice on that point as well is Tyler DiGirolamo, played great shutdown D on Aronson's first cut. He challenged him on the underneath, which we haven't seen yet. They've really watched Aronson going deep and allowed him to come under. Changed it up. Worked.
Kuntz up to Saul. Alex Thorne going deep. A man on a mission, streaking deep. Makes the grab just outside the end zone. Puts it out to space for DiGirolamo. And Pittsburgh makes it look easy. And
Thorne's got the swagger back.
He's ready to go.
Slugfest. That's what we've been wanting. 10-8.
All right. I'm going to put this one on Kazmarek, the coach for Pitt. He needs to know that everything is going through Aronson, and deep shots are going to the
Number
Hornets
25.
show, right? So you've got to force Aronson out, force Hornets under, and make someone else beat you. It's been those two guys throwing these passes. You know, it hasn't always been Aronson with the Hucks. He's been hitting his inside-out breaks, but it's those two guys only that have been making plays for Minnesota. You eliminate those guys, you're going to get yourself one step closer to getting back in the game.
Two-man show has been working so far for Minnesota. Pittsburgh, again, has to come out on D, try to get a break here. And we have Alex Thorne playing another point, consecutive point. DiGirolamo as well. They don't want to give up this pool play game. The implications could mean going through pre-quarters or even worse, depending on how this pool ends up. Thorne with another beautiful pull. This one trailing. I speak too soon. This one, stays in bounds. Centers the disc to Eddie. Looking at the vertical stack. Finding Hornus underneath, being forced under. Put out the space. Aronson makes the grab. Call on the play. Girolamo now not on Aronson anymore. Instead we have Zach Kaufman. Call on the play stays with Aronson. Aronson putting it deep for Hornus again. The receiver is knocked over. No foul call on the play. Looked like the defenders would have been in position regardless.
It's a classy no call. He knew he wasn't going to catch up. No foul.
As you said, Mario, Pittsburgh going there, trying to catch up, really focusing in on Hornus. Girolamo helping deep. And they got themselves a turnover and a chance to break. Thorne looking for Kunsa. Now for Kaufman. Nothing available. Back to Hausman.
Oh,
overthrown in front of Hausman, and Minnesota gets a disc with a short field. Pitt throwing away a possible chance. Picking up the disc. Looking for Eddie. Up the line, not available. Forced to go back. Swung around, call on the play. Travel called. Observer upholding. All the way back to the cone.
In this half, Minnesota is 3 for 2 in the red zone. This is their 4th attempt. We'll see how they do. Sorry, 2 for 3. My math. Ugh.
Play restarts. The line out in space makes the grab. Minnesota up 11-8, and we are getting close.
Red zone 3 for 4, or as I might say, 4 for 3.
This score for Minnesota, they huck it. They don't complete it. Pitt gives it back and they score. I mean, everything's going right for Minnesota.
That's Pitt's 4th turnover this half.
Interesting to see, guys. We haven't seen a timeout in the second half by either team. Minnesota, of course, rolling. We necessarily wouldn't expect that, but would you, if you were Pittsburgh, would you consider calling one?
I mean, what's left to say? I mean, they lost the game. Kazmarek talked to him a whole bunch. They got down early in the first half. They called timeouts. He talked to him 2 different times during halftime. There's nothing left to say. Let them play. They've got to play their way out of this game. There's nothing left to say. The players need to do this. It's not on the coach. They need to dig themselves out of this hole.
We're seeing a tight rotation here as well with Thorne and DiGirolamo out in the field. Those star players trying to overcome this deficit. Pull goes up. Brenner getting position to catch it in the fly. Centering the Saul, L-stack. Max Thorne in isolation and zone by Minnesota. A 1-4-2. Putting it deep immediately. DiGirolamo is there, hanging in the air. DiGirolamo makes the catch.
Great shot from Alex Thorne. He is feeling it. He's taking the team on his back. Doing great. There's been 22 total turnovers this game. 4 for Pitt in the second half, 3 for Minnesota in this half. In the first half, Pitt had 12 turnovers. Minnesota had 10. For Minnesota, there were some forced shots. For Pitt, they were drops. That was the real defining factor for where those turnovers came from. Pitt has not had those kind of drops this second half. They're clawing their way back. They look okay.
They're right there.
Alex Thorne's really taking this team on his back.
Alex Thorne is getting this team back in the game with his throws, with his cuts. I mean, I think they need to continue to rely on him as the game winds down. He's doing everything for him.
The implications of this game could be huge depending on the outcome of Texas and Minnesota. Pittsburgh can go from winning the pool to possibly being tied for last and having to be forced to go for a tiebreaker depending on the outcomes. you don't want to lose this game if you're Pittsburgh. Same with Minnesota. It's a topsy-turvy pool, and not normally, as you said earlier, Pool A is not usually the pool of death. Pull goes up. Centered. Pittsburgh getting down real fast. Bender trying to slow down, over pursues. Gets back into position, vertical stack. Eddie with the disc. Aronson. DiGirolamo coming in late. Finding Eddie back. Vertical stack.
Look at that.
Looking for the under.
Good switch on Aronson underneath. Excellent job in communication by the Pitt defenders, and here we go.
Beautiful huck, but sailing out the back, called out by the observer. And Pittsburgh, players on the sideline, Alex Thorne pumping his fist, knowing it's a crucial possession here. Pittsburgh almost has to score at this point.
I'm going to call attention to Tyler DiGirolamo. He has caught the last 2 deep shots, and he's playing fantastic D on Aronson. It is really having an effect on this game.
Kaufman putting disc into play, looking for Hausman. Hausman going deep. Kaufman back to Dropcho. Looking for the under, not available. Finding Hausman. Hausman looking upfield for Bender. Bender, one of the freshmen. Freshman connection to Dylan.
Pitt's
Call
disc
on the
skills
field.
really starting to show here. Breaking through those marks at will.
Yep, it's all about execution down the stretch. If they can stay patient, rely on the things that have gotten them to their early season success, I think they're going to be fine here and make a run at tying up this game.
Play restarts. Hausman with a disc, putting it deep for DiGirolamo. Makes the grab in the end zone, and Pittsburgh is back in this game. Only down 1 now. Minnesota leads 11-10.
This is when we start to see Minnesota facing some adversity. How do they respond, right? They're young. Do they fold? Do they crumble? Are they nervous? Or do they say, you know what, we still got this? Mario, what do you think? What do you see?
I think they are nervous. I mean, if they're young, they definitely are nervous. You gotta rely on Aronson at this point. You've got to put that disc in his hands and say, hey, you're our guy. Get us through the rest of this game. Pitt's about to bring everything at him on defense, specifically at him. They're going to try to eliminate him from play on this offensive point. Minnesota needs to call a great set play and then show patience. And who knows, Tyler, maybe they just need to jack another one to the end zone and ride out that luck that they've had all game. I mean, Pittsburgh clearly has the momentum here, and I think that they've just got to, if I'm Minnesota, if I don't have a look, I might take another shot and see if it works.
It's true. Looking at some stats here, Pitt was 1 for 4 on hucks. Second half, 5 for 6. 5 for 6. That spells the difference right now for the change in Pitt's game. They are hitting hucks, and a lot of it's going to Tyler. It's not delivery. It's DiGirolamo and Alex Thorne. Those guys are taking over.
One of the hardest names to say in Ultimate, Tyler DiGirolamo.
Geronimo DiGirolamo. It's a challenge. We're doing our best, folks.
Apologies for folks that listen into our warm-up stream. I can't even remember how I said it before. Like I said, DiGirolamo.
Back to the game here. Let's see how Minnesota responds. It's been a little time. They've had a little time to think about it, which is worrisome.
Big athletic defensive line out for Pittsburgh, with the exception of Alex Thorne, but fine with his speed and what he can offer on a turn. Incredibly important. Putting the disc deep. Minnesota going to get it back in their own end zone. Big pull to the back. Center to Eddie. Hausman on the mark. Finding his man underneath. Looking for options. Finding the underneath. Hornus is there. And he bobbles the catch. Doesn't make it. Turnover. And Pittsburgh is rolling right now. Momentum is on their side.
And the nerves are beginning to show for Minnesota, just like we talked about.
Dylan over to Dropcho. Looking for Thorne, now up the line. Quick dish. Drop choke, makes the grab, and Pittsburgh ties this game at 11.
Thorne throws another goal. He has been involved in a number of these last goals. He is single-handedly turning this ship around for Pittsburgh.
You guys have been watching all day. Where does Thorne fit in amongst the best players in college ultimate?
I mean, he's certainly very, very skilled. I'd say as a handler, I mean, he's got the throws. He's been really having some nice deep shots today. I think he's definitely in that conversation. I think what he's lacking is like physical dominance. You know what I mean? He's certainly got the skill. I think in terms of to be the best at college ultimate, I think you not only have to have that skill, but you also need to be able to physically outmatch anyone on the field.
That's true in college ultimate. I think he's only going to get better in club. We've seen his speed in the open field. He gets open deep, and with a good thrower, he's going to make that catch, right? We see a lot of small guys making huge plays in club ultimate. You watch like Cassidy Rasmus and some other Josh Wiseman. These guys, just their speed gets them open, and they've got the throwers to do it. I think Alex Thorne's name should be in that picture for college. He's just dominant.
Calling the play, travel. David Eddy with a disc. Vertical stack. Minnesota has not varied from this offense all game long.
Be interesting to take a look at the matchup on Aronson. He's in the middle of the stack right now.
Girolamo there as well. Kaufman going up. Oh! Can't make the D. Call on the play. Goes to the observer, rules a foul immediately.
I'm going to take a look at the replay.
No foul. Excuse me. Pittsburgh with possession. Another chance to break.
I doubt he called foul on the contact on the throw. I think he doinked that. But he might have on the second effort. Hard to know what he called on, though.
Finding Thorne on the IO break. Thorne looking for any option. Finds Dylan on the other side of the field. Dylan. DiGirolamo.
Thorne wants the disc.
Over to Dropcho. Perceived stoppage. No stoppage. Looking for an option.
Charlie Resnikoff yelling at Greg Aronson. He's got to be better than that. He's got to give that effort because Tyler DiGirolamo getting it underneath, getting it deep. He needs to make an impact on him.
DiGirolamo taps the disc in, looking for an option. Nothing clearly available.
Good dumb defense.
Finding Dropcho. No! Minnesota with a disc.
Ooh, I don't know. I think I might pick that one up and just put it to Aronson with that matchup. Their slow-down offense hasn't been working for Minnesota. I'd say pick that disc up, put it to Aronson in the end zone.
Finding the break off the front of the stack. Nobody there. Finding Aronson.
Good.
Pushed out. Over behind the receiver. Can't make the grab on the second effort. Kaufman telling his team, calm down. Taking the disc to the line. Both teams here with big opportunities. Finding Thorne upfield. Thorne looking for his favorite receiver, can't find him. Over to Kaufman, over to Dropcho. Dropcho, looks like he would send that one deep. Finds Girolamo underneath. Finding Hausman. Calls injury after the catch, it looks like.
Looked like he landed on his knee a little awkwardly there.
Kunsa coming in for Hausman. Play coming in on 0. Calling a timeout. Pittsburgh getting ready to call a play.
Want to let everyone know that you can still follow us on Twitter. We are at NGN Ultimate. Let us know what you're seeing out there. Love to hear what your comments are.
(11-11). Timeout called. Pitt with the disc. about 25 yards outside of the end zone, about 10 yards away from the sideline. We're going to send you to commercial now. When we come back, we'll get right back into the action.
Sarasota is the dream for every single Frisbee player.
We're going to have to be one of the 2 best teams in the world to go.
I'm fairly sure no one thinks we can do it.
Kunsa, Pittsburgh getting ready to check back in after a timeout. Tied 11-11 with Minnesota. Play restarts. Looking for an isolation. Puts up the line to Kaufman. Makes the grab just outside the end zone. Had Dillon available. Chooses not to make the quick dish. Now looking back for Kunsa. Instead finds Dropcho. Dropcho outside the end zone. Dishes to Kaufman. Had the up the line again. Hesitates. Looking up now. Finding Kunsa for the goal. And a 12-11 lead for Pittsburgh.
It is slipping away from Minnesota. And the thing that has been a huge difference is their Hucks. In the first half, they went 4 for 7. This half, they've gone 2 for 6. Now, the difference is not necessarily just the numbers alone, but the momentum that those catches in the first half gave to a young, emotion-riding Minnesota team. They have looked off a number of the looks that they took in the first half. This half, it looks like they were playing a little more possession, and to me, they weren't willing to just let that disc fly, maybe come down with it, maybe not win ugly, and they've gotten away from it. That to me was their bread and butter.
You know, absolutely, and you could say that Minnesota is giving it away. I mean, I'm in the opinion that Minnesota is taking it back. You know, they've really just executed
Pitt is taking it back.
Pitt is taking it back. Excuse me. And they've earned it. They've proven to me, like, there's no question when I watch this game of who's the better team. But certainly, Pittsburgh is proving that they have what it takes to overcome adversity in themselves, put a number of possessions together, and just grind out a win.
Interesting thing coming from discussions with Pitt's coach. He noted that one of their biggest weaknesses was they had not yet played a complete game. They did not have 2 complete halves in any game. They would either start first half strong and then play complacently in the second, or have a slow start and finish the game strong. Right now we're seeing the latter. They started complacent. They started with poor execution, drops, and they are now picking it up. Now we are seeing the Pitt that we expected to see. But they haven't corrected it, right? This is another game. They have not played a complete game, and I'm excited to see him do it at some point.
Just to recap how we got here. 4-1 lead for Minnesota early in the game. Then the teams traded for a while. Right at a half, there's that mistake where the receiver slips, makes the amazing catch. Minnesota goes up 11-8, and right now Pittsburgh's on a streak of 4 straight points to make it 12-11. And Eddie comes out with the disc for Minnesota. Aronson with the disc. Foul called on the play.
They've changed their matchup on Reese Hornus, number 25, who's made all the play. They've put Trent Dillon on him, who has shown to be incredibly explosive. That's a matchup in the air I'd love to see.
We might get to see it. Aronson getting ready, cocking back, looking for an option, puts it deep. It's in the air. Kaufman giving chase, gets the D, tipped up in the air, and Pittsburgh is going to have a possession for game point.
Not a bad shot, in my opinion. Yep. Not a bad shot.
Just a great play by the defense. He was behind at first. The throw just comes up just a little short. Defense makes a great play, a chance to break for the win. And this is, ooh.
Kaufman dishing to Kutza. Kutza bobbles the catch and can't make it. And Minnesota, just like that, back in the goal line.
Another short field to work with.
Wow. Eddie picking up the disc. In tight quarters. Looking back for the dump. Centers. Continuing on for the swing.
Wow.
Just outside the end zone. Dishes it for the score, and Minnesota has tied this game at 12, and I do not believe we are in a cap situation. So we are still game to 13, win by 2.
I was worried about that red zone offense. Earlier in the game, there was a dropped pull, and Minnesota did not convert. They need to convert those. That, again, a couple dicey throws, just a yard out, right? Minnesota's got to convert those to win this game.
The dicey throw has really been their forte this game. It's gotten them where they are right now. But I agree with you, Tyler. Not a as you draw it up end zone offense at all.
No, not by any means.
Soft cap will be coming on in 15 minutes, so we have a lot of time. Looks like this game is going to be played out to the hard cap of 15 no matter what, should that occur.
Shadows are getting long here. The day is drawing to a close. Last round, we've already seen a bunch of errors from fatigue. This is when those long practices, the conditioning start to really pay off for teams. In the back of Pitt's mind has to be that Texas loss just haunting him right now.
I mean, I don't even know what I'm thinking about if I'm Pitt, the things that have gone on here today. You get a win that you're not happy with, then you get a loss that you're frustrated with, then you get a first half that you're frustrated with, and now you're taking back a game. You give away your chance to break for the win. I mean, I don't know. This is a tough spot for Pitt to be in. I'm going to be very impressed if they can come away with this game cleanly with these last couple points.
Offsides called on Minnesota. Almost looked intentional, or they just messed up.
Looked sloppy, and it looked like fatigue to me. Just not losing focus a little bit. The pull wasn't even that good. Teams are tired.
I'd like to point out on the offensive line, Andrei Bobovich, senior player, one of those veteran guys that you try to put in for these moments. Pittsburgh has gone with a lot of youth, and now they're going with a lot of seniority, with only Max Thorne being the lone freshman on the offensive line. Brenner centering the Saul.
Yeah, Thorne coming out, getting the first cut.
Thorne looking for DiGirolamo, putting it deep, wide open, makes the grab, 13-12, Pittsburgh leads.
It's not delivery, it's DiGirolamo. Thorne to Girolamo again.
Perfect delivery from Thorne. I'm going to take a look at this. I mean, all you're seeing here is a perfect throw. DiGirolamo certainly made a great cut, but a lot of times throwers can make you look real good even if your cut is just mediocre. That was a good cut, but an even better throw by Thorne.
As a coach, it's frustrating because that is nothing new. In fact, if you want to be a betting man, that's probably the play you're going to bet on happening, right? Alex Thorne gets the disc underneath and puts it deep to Tyler. As defenders on those guys, you need to be expecting that. At this point, if I'm on Alex, I'm going to be fronting him. And if I'm on Tyler, I'm going to be backing him.
Yep. So here we go. Pittsburgh pulling to Minnesota with a 13-12 lead. Another opportunity to break for the win.
Mostly defensive line for Pittsburgh. DiGirolamo, the only one from the offensive side of the disc. Pittsburgh knowing that they have the lead here and they can trade out for the win. Center to Eddie. Aronson coming in underneath. Looking for Hornis. Also coming in, Dillon almost explodes through that.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, turfing a forehand. That one just came out wrong.
Now you got to turn it around, Hornis. You got to play deep. Look at that. He just gave up a wide open underneath cut because he didn't get focused.
Hornis bumping into Dillon.
A little bit of mental immaturity there from Hornis.
Sophomore, he is fiery by his haircut.
Electrifying.
Coming in on 0. Here we go. Game point possibly for Pittsburgh. Dillon looking back. Not really finding anything available. Still nothing available. Finally finds the break to Hausman. Hausman holding on to it, looking for any open options. Nothing really available. Forcing everything up the line. Out to Kaufman. Kaufman makes the grab. Kaufman over. DiGirolamo. Dillon.
Look at Pitt moving the disc well.
15 yards to go. Over to Hausman. Hausman. Kaufman. Finding Dillon. for the dish to Joe Bender for the score and the win. Pittsburgh, coming back from 11-8, wins it 14-12 over Minnesota.
Reese Horn is immediately on his knees. I guarantee you he's putting this loss on his back, and that is, he has to have somebody come up and tell him that
he played a great game.
He played a great game, and the only reason they were in the game is because of his place.